of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Right now, in my reading, my daily reading, we're in CC, and today I missed the opening of the Panchatattva because it's the same time we meet. And in reading the CC, I just can't express how merciful Krishna is in his form of the holy name. But the carrier of the holy name is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he comes with his associates. The holy name is his weapon. And this weapon is so unique that this weapon, there's no bloodshed. There's no corner, there's kill him, kill him, kill him. No, he's killing the demon of misunderstanding. And it's deep, you know. I reflect sometime. We we always talk about, yeah, you're not your body, we're not our bodies. Bhagavad Gita, yeah, first thing, we're not our bodies, we're spiritual. But to understand that we're not our bodies and that we are eternal servants of Krishna, that's not considered a high realization. That's ABCs. And I can tell you that I'm just not there. Because if you examine, the things we do and the old habits we have, the mindset, but being our body is not just the gross body, it is the subtle body as well. And anyway, I'll read something to you later on, but it's just so amazing to me that I'm not going to be able to get off the bodily conception of life if I don't get some help. And the Supreme Lord is constantly sending me help, but I refuse to take that help. And, because I'm addicted to my old habits and this mindset and trying to take Krishna's place as the controller, what to speak of as the enjoyer. So there's some problems here. So one thing I'm thinking this morning is, are we awakening from the dream? Is anybody still sitting on the side of the bed and relapsing, going back? Remember last week, the first thing we read together was awakening from. Is there anything that anyone has that they can remember, something that ignited anything within you from the situation that our mind and body, we thought that when Srila Bhakti Siddhanta says he thought that he had so much in common with them, but actually they have nothing in common. They're material, which is temporary, and he's eternal. And he said he refused to be a slave anymore. So anyway, is there anything I want to know? Because I want to know if you're awake, because we're moving on today. And if we're going to be reading this section, it has to help. It has to be doing something for you. Other than that, I'm just feeling good myself. Anything from last week. And don't everybody rush me all at once. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So next week, I'm going to be asking this question. So next week, like the Boy Scouts, I don't know what the Girl Scouts do. But the Boy Scouts, the model was be prepared. So you have to be prepared. So Mother Shobha Lakshmi, she, read so nicely, waking from the dream. Um, I'll give you just a little one little point. At that time, for bring stir up some remembrance. At that time, the awakening soul says, in effect, to the mind and body, I am not identical with you. I do not want what you require. I have long believed that I was identical with both of you, that we shared the same interests. But now, I find that I am categorically different from you. I am made wholly from the principle of self consciousness, while both of you are made of dead matter. I refuse to be a slave anymore. That's from Vaishnavism, Real and Apparent. So we're getting serious now. If we're trying to start a fight and we're calling out the mind, we better be careful. We're going to need some strong help, some strong assistance. And that strong assistance is the holy name. The holy name is more merciful than Krishna himself. Well, how can you say that? Well, let's hear what Satchidananda Swami has to say. I have so many heroes. Mother Shobarade,
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
you know I need you, right? It's simply that I need mothers, you know. So I'm used to having mothers take care of me. Um, we're going to start reading, and devotees, today we're going to get into it. We don't have that much time. I have to figure out something. And the other thing is that the morning japa that we do has become so bad I don't come on there much anymore because everyone's muted. And maybe it's because I haven't found a way to share my sacred space. So I'm going to ask Mother Sita or Mother Brindavaneshwari to come down here and help me so I can take the computer and set it so you can feel my sacred space. And in that way, we can change the japa because the japa has to be something that we look forward to. When I hear your voices chanting, I become so inspired when we're here. And if I see your faces, I really become inspired because devotees of the Lord carry the Lord within their heart. So it's powerful. And whenever I see you and I hear you chanting like that, I think, okay, Hari, you can try a little harder. You know, Krishna has been so kind. He sent nice devotees to give association. So I'm grateful and I want to thank you. All right, Mother Shobarati, let's go.
Hare Krishna. More merciful than Krishna himself. The Shastras, Vedic scriptures, unanimously declare that there is not the least difference between Krishna and Krishna Nama, because the real nature of the name is entirely spiritual. The name becomes manifest as the Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, an eternally conscious form full of transcendental mellows, rasas. But just as we cannot hear and see God with our materially conditioned ears and eyes, so we cannot hear and see the true form of the name with our materially diseased ears and eyes. Our spiritual senses need to first be awakened by the mercy of the holy name. Krishna, as the holy name, is even more merciful than Krishna in his transcendental form. This is because Krishna, in his divine form, will only take his seat in a heart that has been totally purified. Krishna's name, however, is so merciful that he is willing to appear even to an unpurified soul and then purify that soul's heart. In this name form, Krishna accepts the dress, so to speak, of a street sweeper and cleanses the heart of the many contaminations to be found there, along with the soul's beginningless ignorance, strong material desires, and karmic reactions. As the heart becomes purer, the auspicious hour announces itself when the chanter feels sincere spiritual joy while pronouncing the name. Tears of ecstasy begin to trickle down such chanters' cheeks, and they chant, hear, and remember Krishna's name with affection. This chanting attracts Krishna like nothing else. Appearing in their hearts, Krishna reveals himself and removes the last spots of material contamination. He then sits down, dressed in his wonderfully brilliant dhoti and decorated with his shining ornaments. By poetically comparing Krishna's name to a sweeper, I do not wish to imply that Krishna's holy name is of a lower class than any other form of Krishna. No, the holy name is of the highest class of mercy. He is so incredibly merciful that he performs the wonderful act of cleansing the heart. Krishna's holy name is thus the first contact the soul can have with Krishna. The Agni Purana therefore praises the holy name in a voice thundering with enthusiasm. The name of Krishna is purely spiritual. There is no knowledge as great as that of the name, and no practice of austerity or meditation, no result of spiritual activity, no form of renunciation, no act of sense control, no pious act, and no goal that can match it. The name is the supreme liberation, the supreme destination, and the supreme peace. The name is eternal life itself. The name is the supreme devotion and the supreme intelligence. The name is the supreme love and the supreme remembrance. The name is the soul's reason for existence. The name is the Lord of the soul, the most worshipful object, and the supreme guru. These high praises are verified by the realizations awakening devotees gain as they practice chanting, and so they come to have deep conviction in the holy name.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Sai. Bhakti Granta Naipunyam, Bhakti Granta Shikshit, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Sai Bhutale, Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Tanamane Namaste, Sarasvati Devi, Gauravani Bajorne, Nirvishesha Sunyavani, Paschatya Desatvarne. What a description of Krishna. What a merciful description of Nam Prabhu. I mean, sometimes when I hear these passages, I'm just struck with awe because of Krishna's kindness. And he's not just kind in the sense that he's helping us. He's kind because he's doing whatever it takes to make sure we have him. And as we desire to have him just a little more, even if we don't have the desire, then he helps us get the desire. It's amazing. There's one aspect here that I thought was very, very nice. The karma. One simple phrase it says that although along with the soul's beginningless ignorance, strong material desires, and karmic reactions, this is the cause of our not being able to reach out and take advantage of what's being offered, simply because of this ignorance. And that seems like strong language, saying that we're just in ignorance. But actually, to the extent that I think I'm anything other than Krishna's eternal servant, it's obvious that's ignorance. So I'm struggling with that because, and how does that manifest? How do we check that this is taking place in our lives? Well, we identify with things other than Krishna, things other than our real eternal relationship. We can identify so strongly with the children and what's going on in their lives, with the objects of our affection. We identify with our work. We identify with so many things, which keep bringing us to the platform of the bodily conception of life. And the mind is directing, and the false ego is basically what's keeping us covered. So we want to stay aware. We want to stay conscious of those forces that are taking us away from the golden opportunity of being able to be blessed by Nam Prabhu. He's here to give us as much mercy as we can take. And when you hear these descriptions, this may not be our experience with the holy name, as far as the being able to appreciate the sweetness. But at the same time, we are the recipients. The more we're ready, the more we stay close, then the medicine becomes effective, and that medicine is simply the holy name. And I was thinking yesterday that the association of the devotees is so powerful. We generally think of high association, which is wonderful because it dissipates the illusions. But even the association of a devotee that you may not consider so high, when Krishna desires to help us, He can speak through the mouths of those devotees. We take gold from a filthy place, good instruction from a fool, what to speak of. We take of taking direction for one who's on the path. So this 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 mercy factor of non-Prabhu and the Panchatattva is something that I think that we should explore a little more deeply. Um, just as when we chant, before we chant our Maha Mantra, we chant Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Sri Vasari, Gaura, Sri Gaura Bhaktivinda. Um, the Panchatattva are actually individuals. This is real. Where Krishna is there as Govinda, so attractive. Um, that's the object of the affection of his devotees. Lord Chaitanya is there, not asking that we surrender. He's asking that we just take the mercy. And he's giving. He's given it. And his associates, they're working in such a way that we get it. They feel as though they feel Lord Nityananda just wants us to have Krishna more than anything else. And Lord Nityananda is powerful because everything that we look at is Lord Nityananda. All Krishna's paraphernalia, his expansions is Lord Nityananda. So this is quite amazing. But I ran over something. Um, I want us to keep a realistic view of our situation so that we keep ourselves open to the possibility of becoming servants of the holy name and recipients of the mercy of the holy name. Therefore, it's good to have a little knowledge about our position. So I'm going to read you from chapter 6, verse 685 and Adi Lila. In the purport, translation, some accept him whereas others do not, yet everyone is his servant. One who does not accept him, however, will be ruined by his sinful activities. So you're going to hear this purport. When a living entity forgets his constitutional position, he prepares himself to be an enjoyer of material resources. Sometimes he is also misguided by the thought that service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not absolute engagement. In other words, he thinks that there are many other engagements for a living entity besides service of the Lord. Such a foolish person does not know that in any position he either directly or indirectly engages in activities of service to the Supreme Lord. Actually, if a person does not engage in the service of the Lord, all inauspicious activities encumber him because service to the Supreme Lord, Lord Chaitanya, is the constitutional position of the infinitesimal living entities. Because the living entity is infinitesimal, the allurement of material enjoyment attracts him and he tries to enjoy matter, forgetting his constitutional position. But when his dormant Krishna consciousness is awakened, he no longer engages in the service of matter, but engages in the service of the Lord. In other words, when one is forgetful of his constitutional position, he appears in the position he appears in the position of the Lord of material nature. Even at the time, he remains a servant of the Supreme Lord, but in an unqualified or contaminated state. So, all those things that we're attracted to and that we're doing um, that are not connected with the Supreme Lord, that are not our service, it's really still indirectly serving the Supreme Lord, but we're doing so in the wrong way because there's no existence separate from Krishna. That's if we don't serve Krishna, we serve Maya. And Maya keeps us so illusioned that it's not possible for us to take advantage of these gifts. So gradually, and there's so many bad habits and bad association, fine. But we want to keep first and foremost that we are Krishna servants, that devotional service is is everything. That devotional service will engage us, will bring us back to our real position, our true constitutional position as a pure servant of God. And that devotional service can be had if we chant the holy name nicely with attention. If we take advantage of that one gift of chanting the holy name without offense, which I find to be very difficult, especially when you get those last the 9 and 10 on the 10 offenses, I get lost. You know, it's just so embedded in in my lifestyle, maintaining material attachments, you know, and being inattentive while chanting. Eh, these are things that happen, but they're offenses. So the real thing is to focus. We don't have that much time. When it's time to chant, we need to hear. And if we really believe what we're hearing from the Shastras, if we believe it, then we give it a little more effort. All Lord Chaitanya is asking is that we just take. Take means that we give it a little more effort. So, all right, let's get started. More merciful than Krishna himself. I've had my 2 minutes. Is there anything that has been gotten out of here? Are there any points that you would like to go over? We're going to do one a day. Don't just stand there and look at me, Dr. John. You've always got something to say.
Prabhu, I was reading the purport that you were reading just now. Um, what does it mean to understand our constitutional position as the servant of the Lord? I mean, I say I am the servant of the Lord. Is that what it is? Or do I have certain duties that I have signed up for? Do I need to do those, or do I need to say I am the servant of the Lord? And
When you say you have certain duties you have signed up for, what do you mean?
I mean, I have responsibilities at home that
Yes,
I
yes.
need to do. So, and so that is, most of them are conducive. I'm not saying that somebody is pulling me back or that, but there are certain things I have to do, which then prevents me from doing more service. So, is it enough to say I am a servant of Lord Krishna? Is that it?
Of course
I
not.
understand my
Of course not. It's not enough to say I'm a servant of Lord Krishna. Where's the action?
yeah.
You know, if I say I'm your servant, then I should be acting on that platform or ready to act. When Krishna asked Arjuna, have you heard with an attentive mind are your doubts and illusions, you know, now dispelled? Arjuna said, yes, I have heard, and I'm ready to act by your grace. So the understanding of who we are needs to be there, that we're servant, but we need to act on that. And there's a lot of things that take place, and so much of it has very little to do with us. We just have to make some small adjustments. And the first adjustment is that we have to understand who we are. It's like that awakening. If I think that I'm the man and I have my worldly responsibilities, all these things are true. But I can tell you some very harsh things. That if somebody said that I got some information, but I don't want to share it with you, and say, well, what? I said, at a certain point, you're not going to have anything, and you've been working all your life. I said, I've seen this. That at a certain point, you won't have anything. He said, okay, at a certain point, your children they're going to die. I mean,
Oh,
that's so crazy. It hurts. But these all these type of expressions are expressions that say you're eternal, that at a certain point everything you have in this world is taken from you. All the people that you love and that you care for, they will no longer be here. This sounds like such harsh language when you direct it like that. But the reality is, you have to do your services that you have, your responsibilities in the material world. You can't just drop them, so you take them. But you add something in your consciousness. You add an awareness in your consciousness, and you help develop an affection for the Supreme Lord. You connect your everything with the Supreme Lord. As you're serving at home, but you're doing your service at home just like you do your service, you keep you keep the responsibility of I'm an eternal servant of Krishna, and everything I do it nicely. These children are here for me to take care of, to do to the best of my ability to help them be Krishna conscious. And if they're not ready, it's still my duty to give them as much love and affection, because they've been put here as my servants. I'm a servant of Krishna. So your consciousness changes. You're still serving Krishna. The other side is just material and material attachments. But everything has to be transformed as to seeing Krishna, Krishna's energy, Krishna's servants, um, and we become better. Other than that, Srila Prabhupada didn't give up his situation. When he met Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, Prabhupada lamented. He said he's a householder and he had responsibilities. But if you look at lifetime in preparation, Srila Prabhupada was always working towards, you know, that time when he'd be able to come closer and do more for his spiritual master. So, in other words, our consciousness begins to evolve. As you chant the holy name will take charge. The holy name will help Krishnas, because I said we we need so much help once we get the awakening. That's what was explained last week. But that awakening means I'm awake to the fact that I'm an eternal servant of Krishna. I'm in this situation. I need to work my way out of it. Please, Lord, please engage me in your service. Don't let me fall back. Don't let me fall back asleep. Let me stay awake to the reality. Let me see all these situations in their true light. And that's the way I see it, Mother. And I think it would help you.
uh, Prabhu, I want to ask you, like being a servant means just mentally thinking you're a servant and don't do anything like
How
any apart from chanting. Okay, we're chanting, we're using our tongue and say, please engage me in your service. So how do we do it every day? Like, please engage me in your service. Engaging me mean just thinking, reading about Krishna or chanting about Krishna.
that's powerful. That is powerful.
Is,
Chanting Krishna, hearing about Krishna, powerful, because the holy name is doing the cleansing. It's transforming us. So the process is working. You may think sometimes, well, people don't do that much service, or I don't do that much service. But it starts with the chanting. You're asking Krishna to engage you. We don't wake up and ask Maya to engage us, but she does. We're already engaged. Um, Due to the reactions. And this one part we were reading today, that's why that came. It says, Krishna accepts the dress, so to speak, of a street sweeper, and he cleanses the heart of the many contaminations to be found there, along with the soul's beginningless ignorance, strong material desires, and karmic reactions. So there's a lot of things that are happening to us that are resultant, you know, activities. This is a result of our previous karma. It's a result of our desires. Uh, so, but if you chant and read, you have to eat. So but instead of saying, well, I got to make something for me and the kids, you think this is my time. I'm going to make regular offerings for Krishna. I'm going to clean the place for Krishna. You're Krishna's servant. And so you bring everything together. In other words, in your consciousness, you begin to see things from a different perspective. And this is practical Krishna consciousness. As we continue to chant and serve and hear, then the transformation is already taking place. We're being pushed around. Instead of being drug around by Maya, we're being used by Krishna. The consciousness is changing. And an example of that is that if you look back to how you came to Krishna consciousness, what your consciousness was, what your habits were, and you look at yourself today, and I ask the question, is there a gulf? Is there a world of difference?
Yeah, definitely. Big difference.
So we may not be pure devotees today. Srila Prabhupada's vision that he saw all his disciples were pure devotees. We may not see that, and you may never see yourself as a pure devotee, but we're engaging, we're petitioning Krishna. We're asking him to use us. We're asking him to direct our activities. We're asking him to reinstate us in a relationship with him. And so that knowledge, that Sambandha Gyan, that knowledge of our relationship with Krishna, that has to be there. That's an awakening. If I have a knowledge of a relationship with Krishna, then I know that even if I have bad habits and I fall into illusion, I consider myself every now and then that I fall out of Maya and in the Krishna consciousness. I mean, I think that is more exacting, because so many things, the consciousness, check your consciousness. We just have so many things that we do that are a result of us being who we thought we were. But that changes, it gradually changes. And to the extent that we continue to try to chant nicely and try to avoid these offenses and really try to love the devotees. When you think of serving Krishna, serve the devotees. Serve the devotees. That's powerful. Das anudas. If we continue to serve the devotees, then we become blessed. And the devotees are feeling wonderful about us. That is the key. That's why we serve the spiritual master. The spiritual master is also a devotee. You know, I hope that helps some.
We Haryashra Prabhu.
Yes.
We hear the analogy. We chant Hare Krishna. Krishna comes. We invite him into our life. Sometimes we say we invite him to have a seat, and then if we ignore him while we're chanting, that's an aparad. That's commonly used to describe our inattentiveness while chanting. Here in this analogy that Maharaj uses, he's now saying that Krishna's not just coming to take a seat, he's actually coming with a broom and he's coming to clean. He's knocking on our doors to clean us up. And that, to me, that adds another element of just how ungrateful we are when we don't accept that help from Krishna. I guess my question is, if Krishna's coming and Krishna's doing the cleaning, what is our role in chanting? What is our role in the process? If the holy name is doing the work, what are we to do?
Desire. Desire to desire. Desire to desire to desire. All we have to do is change our desire. And come to the realization that, Krishna, I'm weak. At any moment, your external energy is so strong. I've been identifying so long as a product of this material world, as matter. But even as you're saying this, I believe it, but I fall back. I can't keep my consciousness steady like this. Krishna, please. I'm weak. That's our position. Our position is to acknowledge the reality of just how precarious of a situation we've been placed in. And even after this awakening, we can fall back into this illusion. Therefore, we desire that Krishna help us. And that desire alone, that desire is what keeps us in the grace of the Supreme Lord. Plus, once we've taken shelter of the person in Krishna consciousness, the spiritual master, then it's just a matter of time because we're connected with the process. Prabhupada's analogy, we're in the shower, we have the water on, we're using the soap, we're bound to become cleansed. But see, here's the difference between Nam Prabhu and Krishna. Nam Prabhu, Cheto Dharma Marjanam, cleanses the heart of all that dirt, all those accumulated reactions, desires, reactions. He just cleanses the heart of that. It's there. So we go on chanting and we're still aware of who we were, but we go on chanting. That chanting is our part of the cleansing. That's what we're doing. We show that that our desire to change is there. We take the order. We chant. That's the manifestation of our desire in motion. So we just chant. And if we chant, then Krishna says, okay. We keep calling him. He says, okay, I hear you. That's all we do. There's a lot of grace coming from the spiritual master. There's a lot of grace coming from Krishna. There's a lot of grace coming from the devotees. So that is the world that we're now introduced or we're connected with, a world of grace, mercy, compassion. That's what we receive at our moment of awakening. We begin to receive, and this awakening is not the deep awakening. This is just
Japa conference call. Thank you.
This is just the awakening of the fact that we're not our bodies, we're eternal servants of Krishna, and therefore I want to do something about this. I want to act on this. I hope that's okay, Drona.
That's not, no, it's really good.
But association, Drona,
taking that a step further. I'm trying to connect this also with offending, with committing namaparad. When we criticize devotees that are cultivating the holy name,
it's the most dangerous.
In this understanding, we're basically also criticizing Krishna's ability, because if Krishna's actually doing the cleaning, Krishna's actually we're not having proper faith in that Krishna has the ability to transform the heart. Sometimes we think of it as, well, this person's not going to change, or this person is the way they are. But if Krishna is the one that's actually doing the cleaning, Krishna is the one actually cleaning up, we should at least have faith that Krishna has the power and the strength to transform.
This is science of self-realization. We should look at ourselves. If we want to find the fault and the dirtiness and the inabilities, we can find a world of that within ourselves. But when we start looking externally and looking at devotees like that, let's examine what's happening. The false ego just popped its ugly head out again. And I'm thinking that I'm special. I'm thinking that I know something. And the devotee may have some problems, but he's still Krishna's devotee. I don't know where he's at in his evolution, in his development of purification. Krishna is dealing with him. So if I go and begin to criticize him, and Krishna is actually dealing with him, and from Krishna's perspective, he's coming closer. It's dangerous because I'm criticizing the most dear thing to Krishna. Devotees are so dear to Krishna that Krishna takes the form of the devotee, and he's tasting what the highest devotee, what Srimati Radharani, what she's tasting. He wants to know, because he sees the devotees they're so they have such an affection for me. So when the devotee is in his stage of reconnecting, reawakening, we don't want to criticize that. We don't know how many millenniums, and how many births that devotee has traveled to finally get to the platform of being engaged in the service of the Lord, and that he's doing the best he can according to his contamination. He's trying. Let those who are responsible for developing him correct him. Let's just see from Krishna's perspective. That's a nice devotee. He's trying. He's having a hard time. Maybe I can encourage him or her. Maybe I can give them some prasadam. There's just so many combinations which are there and, for suffering. A devotee can be acting out, and that devotee could be suffering, finding it very hard to surrender, wants to surrender. Krishna says, but even if a devotee has a spiritual master and he can't follow, but he's sincere, that he gives the intelligence, the understanding by which he can come to Krishna, to him. So from our perspective, how could he be sincere? He's not even doing what the spiritual master said. But we're not Krishna. Devotees belong to Krishna. And they carry Krishna in their hearts. So, and you see it, that even the devotee that you can consider not so high, that same devotee can meet a group of people who have nothing to do with Krishna consciousness, and they can praise that person. So we have to be very, very careful. That one will take us out, so to speak. The devotees. We can't criticize the devotees. That's another thing I'm beginning to. And Lord Chaitanya, he's our mercy factor. And if you criticize the devotees, take side with devotees, and then Lord Chaitanya is not pleased. We have to really just see the devotees are in the care of Krishna, that they're trying to make advancement, and see them like that, and see ourselves and all of our shortcomings, and try to do something about ourselves. Humility is still the item of knowledge that is required to make some advancement. We have to be humble knowing the fact that we are eternal servants of Krishna, and somehow we've gotten ourselves into this rut, into this body, into this consciousness. And by the grace of Guru and Krishna, I'm becoming a recipient of God's grace. So I'm so grateful that I want to make sure that others have that too. We don't have time. Don't criticize the devotees.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare obeisances, glories to Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna,
Can you hear
Jason.
me? Yeah.
Of course I can hear you. You're loud, you know.
Am I loud?
No.
Okay. All right. So a couple things I just want to point out. Earlier, you were mentioning about, we were talking about the Mataji asks, what do we do? And within your answer, you mentioned about the kids, right? Like you want to give Krishna consciousness to your kids and they may not want it, right? Well, that really struck me because right now, Danielle, my daughter, hasn't wanted so much to do about Krishna consciousness her whole life, right?
Yes.
But now that she sees the grind of the workaday life and the body starts giving trouble and she's really starting to understand that it's just not so nice here, she's actually listening. Like I had a long conversation with her yesterday. She was completely taking it in, like every word. And I was telling her why we do Harinam, the power of the holy name, so many things I was telling her, and she was completely listening. And I actually at one point heard her say, "Wow," it's just wonderful because I've never stopped trying to, like, little by little, just injecting things when she's going through certain phases of her life so that she kind of gets it little by little by little. But now she's really, really listening. That's the first thing. The second thing I wanted to mention, so we have to have patience, right, with people that are not so inclined initially, especially our kids. The second thing, I guess it's within the same vein, but when she asked, what do? Can we chant and we read? Of course, we do that. It's wonderful. And it's how we raise our own personal realization and come closer to Krishna. But I think what Prabhupada really wants is for us to try our best to give it to others. That's like, what we should do as Krishna's agents, right? Once we have and we understand the precarious situation that we're in and how important it is to not waste our human lives, to do our best to really try to give it to as many people as we can. Carry books with you, whoever you talk to, you mention Krishna's name, give them a book, go out on Harinam. And if you can't do any of those things, support the temple every way you can, do some service to the people that are preaching, try to preach yourself whenever you can. All those activities I think are extremely important because once we have it and we try to give it to others, then Krishna's mercy really comes.
Yep. That's true.
So besides just, for our own chanting and reading, but try to give it to other people, do our best to really bring it out into the world, to try to help people. We have Krishna. He's helping us now. We know how much other people need it because we know what we were like before we had Krishna in our lives, and it's a mess. It's really bad, right? And when you realize that, you say, my God, people they don't have Krishna in their lives. What would it be like? What would my life be like without Krishna in my life? I couldn't imagine how horrible it is. So you begin to realize the importance of, helping people that are still asleep in the lap of Maya.
Well, that's nice, John. Humiliation is bringing about humility. So we're able, because of our experience in life, and because of having an experience in Krishna consciousness, we become a little humble. And when you become humble, you can become grateful. And that gratitude will go so far. And see, from that position of being humble and being grateful, then you're opening yourself for more mercy. Ultimately, we're being used. We're being put in the hands. We're becoming a utensil for Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. And so Just like Maya has us go here and there and do this and that, Krishna, the internal energy is moving us. We become, that's why devotional service is so powerful, because our consciousness begins to change, our activities change. That's devotional service. But in the light of, as she was speaking, at home and with the family, you be an example. And remember, they're not really your kids. They're in your care for a certain amount of time. Oftentimes, the parents, when the children turn like 17 or whatever, sometimes earlier, and they start acting pretty independent and doing things that the parents never would ever want their children to experience. The parents forget of all the things they experienced when they were young, especially if they're young Westerners, you know. But nothing's lost. Whatever we invest in our children, we're grateful if the children stay straight on the path and develop into strong Krishna conscious devotees. But oftentimes, the same freedom that came to a person that was raised a Christian or Muslim, when they became more acquainted with the material world and all of its allurements, then as a youth, many of us became attracted by that and gave up our so-called religiosity. But by the grace of Krishna, we later found Krishna's mercy. So that's the point. You don't know what arrangements are being made, what stage of development a devotee is in. But from the perspective of a parent, you should know that this is another jiva that is an eternally a servant of Krishna. I have to do the best I can. And after that, I do more. And after that, I remain detached, because ultimately they have the same free will and independence that I have, that all other living entities have in its relationship to Krishna. Um, Krishna is not forcing. But this association, see, Srila Prabhupada gave us something so powerful. This ISKCON society that we often complain about, and me too, but this ISKCON society is powerful because it has association of devotees of the Lord. It has engagement. It has knowledge. It has Krishna in his name and his form. It's paraphernalia. There's so much here in the ISKCON society that we too take for granted. But Srila Prabhupada has given us, he's given us the Sankirtan movement, and so we're part of that Sankirtan movement. Very, very powerful. Anyway. Okay, you did better today, everyone. You got into it a little bit. I'm going to expect more of you. First thing I want to say, Mother Shobharate, you're just so wonderful. So wonderful. Thank you for reading so nicely. Mother Chintamani, I see you there. You were my first reader. You were always so good. I want to thank Mother Goloka Lokananda Priya for the way I used to hear her chant in the morning. I see your names there. Mother Jagannath Priya, she's always in the background, but she does so much service. Oh, Vijayavali Devi Dasi, that's not your name anymore. You're so amazing. This morning you were there early and you were chanting so nicely chanting instead of being on mute. They do that to me. I don't see, Mother Sita, I'm not saying anything about you. You do too much devotional service.
Thank you, Prabhu. She's tired.
You see, I've already told you, you're going to have to come and help me set up so that I can give them a better experience. I want to take and set up my sacred space so you can see how I chant and you can take shelter of the place. Sure. So anyway,
she's always helpful.
Excuse me?
She's always helpful. She's ready for that. She'll do.
Mother Sue Davy. What's been happening with Mother Sue Davy? Mother Sue Davy, I don't hear her.
She's here.
I know, but I don't hear her anymore. She thinks that she's not good enough to correct me anymore. What's what's happening? She usually always calls and tells me the things I leave out. Anyway, I'm very, very grateful to see all of the
Okay.
devotees. I think, Drona, I think we can end here. What do you think?
Sounds good. It was a wonderful session today, Hari Asher Prabhu. Thank you. We look forward to next week. We all know, as you said, we want reflections. You're going to ask for reflections next week, specifically on the lesson for today, as Krishna enters into our hearts as the street sweeper.
Next week is 2 types of chanters. You can read it ahead of time, and that'll give you questions. 2 types of chanters.
Yes. Okay. We look forward to seeing everybody next Saturday. And for those that are local, we look forward to seeing you every morning at 7:50 for Srimad Bhagavatam class. Everybody have a wonderful Krishna conscious day.
Hare
Thank you. Prabhu's,
Hare
Mataji's,
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you.
Hare
Hari
Krishna,
Bol.
Hare Krishna to
Hari
everybody.
Bol.
Hare Krishna, Hare
Once you
Krishna.
call
Titanam Pavanebhyo
This is to pass in the
Vaishnavebhyo
Pyoja
Vaishnavecha,
Bhagavanam
Titanam
Pavane.
Panavebhyo, Vaishnaveभ्यो
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo
Namo
Namaha.
Namaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna to everybody. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.